All this week, BFBS is showing a special series of BBC programmes for Remembrance Week. In a moment, I'll be chatting to the show's presenter, but first, here's a quick look at him in action.
Get down, get down!
Well, it's a pleasure to welcome Rav Wilding to the show. Good evening to you, sir. We ought to say that that was a training exercise. Tell us what was happening there.
It was. Basically, that's the last part of training in a purpose-built Afghan village within Camp Bastion before the boys go out to patrol for real.
So, you were a former soldier, of course. You were out there for how long? 3 weeks or so filming the series?
It was just under 3 weeks filming. So I went out to both Camp Bastion and some of the FOBs as well to see what life's really like for our military right now in the present day.
And from your perspective, what is it really like?
Well, it's tough. It's certainly tougher than I ever thought. Certainly out in those FOBs, I mean, the heat was what hit me first of all. I mean, it's just so intense. The sand, the dust is absolutely everywhere. I've got nosebleeds every day for the first 2 weeks. And they said, oh no, it takes a month to get over that. Even my contacts that I wear actually started to melt. They actually warped out of shape. I couldn't even see. So I had to take those out. These are things you just don't see from the news until you see it out there with your own eyes. Well, once the contacts are removed, obviously.
There were, of course, there are plenty of inspirational characters involved in this series. Mark Ormer, we're going to talk about the Gumpathon a little bit later on in our programme tonight. Let's just hear, before you tell us your impressions of him, a little bit about his inclusion in the series. Have a listen.
Thinking, as soon as this clears, turn around, ID where the enemy are and start engaging them. I was thinking, right, turn, because I thought it came from behind me. And I knew in the back of my mind that I wasn't turning, and I didn't understand why. So then as the dust and stand was settled, it settled a bit more, and then I realised, as I looked down, I realised that I'd lost both my legs. And then as I looked over to the right to see any of the other guys and what was happening, I saw my body armour and rifle about 20 yards away, and then my right arm was just torn to pieces as well.
An amazing guy.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things Mark said in the interview there, he said he was over 6 foot tall before his accident. On his prosthetic limbs, he went to 5'9". He then managed to walk down the aisle and marry his wife, and he was 1,000 feet tall. Just sums that guy up. Nothing is going to stop him. And as you say, with the Gumpathon, he just proved that point.
Absolutely. More on that in a second or two. Now, during your time out there, you said you wanted to get an impression of what conditions were like. You said they were very tough. How well received were you by the troops? Are they happy to have you there?
Very. Morale was high. And when we got out there, I think they liked the fact that media came out. It was obviously a very, very positive piece that we're doing. That's the only thing I'd be interested in doing anyway. But when we got to the FOBs, I mean, the guys out there, they don't get a lot of media because it's so dangerous. So I think for the fact that we went out there and I was out there and spent some proper quality time with them, I think they did generally really appreciate it.
And you did see firsthand the horror of the situation that they sometimes face.
Well, tragically, yeah, I did. I was actually doing an interview in one of the FOBs and we could hear this fierce firefight and a big explosion, and tragically that actually killed one of the sergeants there and then when we were there. I was also there for the vigil they held, and there when the news was broken to the boys, and it was just a very, very chilling, emotional time, but it just proves, just how dangerous it is.
There are, I'm sure, plenty of untold stories out there. Would you go back, do it again?
I would. I think there's so many different units and stories to tell out there. I would be very interested in going back. I'd love to do it. It'd be an honour.
OK, Rav, well, thank you very much for coming in
this
evening. And I saw you watching the Tour of Duty game. We'll see if we can get you a copy.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
absolutely.
We'll sort it. And you can see Rav's series Remembrance Week every morning this week on BFBS 1 at 10:15, I think it is, CET.